Just a heads up for any of you that feel like you may have missed something in this broadcast you want to go back and watch, or there's something you can't make out or doesn't look clear, please come. You can see the broadcast streaming or download it in its entirety at fantasysportpros.com. We're back with the 5th round of the FF Champs Challenge brought to you by fantasysportpros.com. We have the huddle on the clock, who's already got Larry Johnson at #1 overall, Santana Moss, Chester Taylor, Matt Hasselbeck. We have the stickers perfectly placed by the lovely Vanessa. Thank you, Vanessa. And the huddle has selected Frank Gore, running back, San Francisco 49ers. And as Ian was saying today, he thinks he's going to start the season as the #1 runner. So if indeed he is on an up-and-coming offense with a lot of young guys and they can bring it together fairly quick, that could prove to be a lot of value.
Well, he's looked good in camp. He's looked good in the first preseason game. There's talks that Kevin Barlow, the other back that he's in competition with, is going to get traded to the Jets. If that happens, of course, the standalone running back. I personally think San Francisco is an up-and-coming offense. So you could get a steal there. I mean, that could be a guy that really puts up 2nd or 3rd round numbers there in the 5th.
No, not a bad pick. And I tell you, I got Frank Gore in my keeper league, so I hope he actually comes through. We have football injuries on the clock, and we will find out what he plans to do with that team.
First wide receiver taken.
There he goes. So apparently he has no qualms that Adai is going to be the starter, and he's taking a wide receiver.
Andre Johnson, wide receiver, Houston Texans.
Good pick. He's his #1. He's a little iffy as a #1. If he brings it all together, like he's got all the talent in the world, he's got all the potential in the world, he's just never actually panned out, partly because they haven't had the line.
They haven't been able to protect the quarterback.
The
quarterback's on his back 70 times a year, and what are you going to do?
They also brought in Eric Moulds this year, who is an absolute veteran in this league, who will show him a little bit of the ropes and also relieve some pressure by giving them another option to pass to. So
absolutely.
So not a bad thing for him.
Much less double teams for Andre Johnson. I mean, he's a force. He runs like a gazelle. I mean, he's an absolute force.
No, absolutely. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 picks before us. We got Guru on the clock. We got to start planning our strategy for our 5th round pick. And the question is, do you think Fred Taylor would have come back last round? I don't think he would. I don't personally think Frank Gore goes before Fred Taylor. So if we wanted to get him on our team, we had to take him when we did. Only time will tell if it was the right pick.
Okay. I disagree.
Thank you.
That won't be the first time, and it's certainly not going to be the last.
All right, so we got to make a plan here. We got to decide. We're in the 5th round. Now, if you recall, a couple rounds ago, when we filled out our wide receivers, we said who we would love to get in the 5th round would be one of the top tight ends. The beauty of it is there's 2 of them still on the board, or really 3 if you want to throw in Gonzalez, who is the former, obviously, best, and all 3 of our top tier tight ends.
I can't believe a tight end hasn't come off the board. And here's another pick. Thomas Jones goes to Fantasy Guru at the 3 spot.
All right.
Running back, Chicago Bears. They have 2 backs. 2 backs are hurt. Thomas Jones is the first one back to playing, but Cedric Benson's going to be back soon, and quite frankly, Thomas Jones could be the odd man out there.
I'm actually a little surprised.
He also could be the starting back. I mean, he had 1,200 yards last year, so that's a risk-reward pick. Fantasy Guru generally take a tight end there, but they're generally one that jumps on Antonio Gates. And
they did switch it up. He must have been Gates or bust.
No, he took Hines Ward there.
Yeah,
so
it's odd.
That's something that Fantasy Guru usually doesn't do. Obviously, we've drafted with these guys before, but we'll see. Maybe he's going a different direction.
All right, and with that, we got NFL.com, who has taken Edgerrin James, Peyton Manning, Dominic Davis, Joey Galloway. He is up in the 5th, and he has selected Derek Mason as his #2 wide receiver. Now, Mason's got a pretty good pick at this point. I will give him credit. That's a nice value there. He's got a quarterback now who can actually throw him the ball, and I happen to like that pick right there. Right.
So we're up. We're up in one pick.
Two picks. One and then us. Beauty is, if we wanted to get a tight end,
it's got to be a tight end.
Shock your Heap.
There's
they're
no
both there.
way.
What do you take, Ian?
I like Heap. For 2 reasons. A, we'll have 2 star players off in the same week. B, Steve McNair just went to Baltimore. So Steve McNair is historically fond of his tight ends. Todd Heap was the #2 ranked tight end in this system last year. Now, obviously, last year's stats mean nothing for this year. It's an entirely different year, but it's not like we're taking a shot on a guy that hasn't done it before. I mean, this guy's been there. Shockey in the Jim Fossil system of old was fantastic. In this system, still fantastic, but just gets less opportunities. McNair is going to be to Heap all day long. And I'm a Giant fan. You know, if I had the more the merrier.
Giant?
Yeah, a little bit. You know me, the more the merrier. So, you know, with all that being said, Heap will probably go off right before us, but I hope not.
It would be tough to grab 2 Giants. That being said, it's one of the things we try to avoid to do. We don't let bye weeks rule our draft. However, you do pay attention to them. You don't want to have too many of your important players all off on the same week. That being said, I did win a league last year where I started to go with the draft. I decided to ignore bye weeks and went only with value, picked the best player on the board based on our tiering strategy, ended up getting 3 or 4 of my first 5 picks in the same bye week, and then actually ran with it and tried to purposely draft guys if I was coin flipping between 2, want that bye week. Basically throwing away 1 week, which I knew I was going to lose, and deciding if what I'm going to do is get a little bit more production every other week, and it'll probably help me get into the playoffs. And quite frankly, interestingly enough, I made the playoffs, and I won the week that I had all the bye weeks because I loaded up in the free agents. So it doesn't kill you. It certainly doesn't kill you.
You know, sometimes when we're just trying to decide between 2 players like we are now, hopefully deciding between these 2 players, if one doesn't go off right before us, which it didn't, Lawrence Maroney, running back, New England Patriots, went off to Draft Sharks. So we're taking it. We're locked and loaded on a tight end here because, as I have discussed before, they're important. You know, the big guys, it's important to have one of the big 4. There's no way if we don't take a tight end here, and I'm sure you're in agreement with that, they come back to us.
No, we're taking a tight end
We're
here.
taking
the
a tight
question
end.
is which one.
Now, one thing we do, we have something called the strength of schedule. So you'll see red is bad, green is good. You know, quite simple. And we look at this is for passing matchups. So we look at teams that have good passing matchups, bad passing matchups. So New York Giants, down the stretch, playoff time, where we hope we'll be, they have Dallas, Carolina, all red. Dallas, Carolina, Philadelphia, down the stretch. Baltimore, Kansas City, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. You know, I think Baltimore's schedule is much easier than the Giants.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here. I kind of see what you're talking about. Right in the middle of the season, they've got a bunch of mediocre games. Giants absolutely do have a tough schedule because the NFC East is a brutal division to be in right now.
And you know what? If you take that with the fact that we already have Barber as a key player, I mean, and the fact that I let you win on Fred Taylor.
Threw Fred Taylor in my face. He clearly, if Jeremy Shockey is watching this, I apologize. This pick is clearly on Ian.
I love the guy. I mean, I'm a diehard. But
so, we like our team right now. Shaping up, I tell you.
So we're going to take Todd Heap.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're taking Heap.
We're taking Heap. So Todd Heap, tight end,
Good
Baltimore
pick.
Ravens. You know, I told you why I love him. I think that's going to, really bode well for the team there.
No, good pick. You can look right here at the strength of schedule we have right here
and
on
I
the
think
site.
the 5th round, that's a steal, man.
Good pick here.
I like that.
Nothing wrong with that. All right, so we're looking at Diehards is back on the clock. They've got Lamont Jordan, Larry Fitzgerald, Reuben Drones, Darryl Jackson. They've got 2 runners. They have 2 receivers. I can't imagine he's going to take a quarterback this early, but you never know. Some guys are really, this is the round. The 5th and 6th is where you would see most people start to grab their quarterbacks if they have been waiting. So wouldn't shock me there. Wouldn't shock me if he took Shockey. Wouldn't shock me if he took Gonzalez. You know, you got to get, in this league, if you want to win, you got to have wide receivers who catch, and you got to have tight ends who catch, because after the first 4 or 5 tight ends who can catch 70, 80, 90 balls, the next bunch of guys can catch 30 or 40 balls. So big difference in that when you get a point per reception.
You know, not everyone may subscribe to the stud tight end theory, but, you know, we think it's tried and true.
There's no doubt.
You need a top 4 tight end in this system because they're so head and shoulders above everyone else. That's just the way I feel. You can certainly win without him, but the stars really have to rely on him.